Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me? Chicken.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk Lima to you. You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Survivor Oz, Australia's #1 TV and film podcast, as we come to you once again for a Survivor Worlds Apart episode recap, episode 6. The final episode now before the merge, and a lot to talk about this week. And it is a big pleasure to welcome back to this show for the first time in a couple of years one of the greatest players to ever step foot on a Survivor beach. He won the very first season of Survivor Borneo. He came back for Survivor All-Stars, and if he is not back on Survivor very soon, I think we're all going to start a riot. It is one, the only, Richard Hatch. Richard, welcome back to Survivor Oz.
Ben, what the hell do you mean, one of the only? One of the best.
One of. Sorry. Let's rephrase it. The best to ever have stepped foot on the beach of Survivor. How's that?
Just got to go with my, with my caricature there.
Yes. No.
Things are good. But it's been a couple of years. You're right. So I've got to adjust now to the Australian accent. Mm-hmm. I've got to let that settle in a minute so I understand what you're saying.
Do you need me to get a few Dingo Got Me babies and crikeys out there for you, just so you're used to it, or?
Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
Like regular words and what you're saying without any of that isn't Australian enough for me. Let's do this.
I always throw a few in there where I can. But season 30, Worlds Apart, we're 6 episodes in. Are you liking this season?
I am I like Survivor. I really enjoy the show. I think it's an awesome show, and I think there's just an amazing amount of good things, good material to learn about who we are as humans. It doesn't matter, and this is a good season for a lot of reasons. People are up in arms about having locked people into these original labels, white collar, blue collar, and talking as if the one thing only does a particular way of living, and another group does, and just the conversation makes this worth it. Mm-hmm. Just the conversation about whether or not that's okay, calling somebody this white collar, blue collar, and no collar, and what does that mean, makes it interesting outside of the game. But yeah, I'm enjoying the season. I really like that there are 3 groups, or there were 3 groups, and I like the dynamics that started, and I knew one of the players, which was really neat.
Well, it's kind of seemed like this idea, when they started promoting it stemmed all the way back to that very famous conversation that you and Sue had, of course, in those initial moments of Borneo, when, you've got this blue-collar lady who's coming up to you going, I'm a redneck, and you're up in that tree kind of, dictating there. So, in a way, it seems like this idea was down to you and Sue Hawk.
Yeah, is that what color Sue's collar was? Blue? Hell if I know.
Who knows? I think we're all still trying to work that out. But I think kind of in terms of like the 30th season though, I mean, a lot of people question like this is a very significant season. 15 years we've been celebrating this show since all the way back when you guys first started on Borneo. Do you feel we should have had an anniversary style season like a Heroes Villains or some sort of celebratory season to kind of, make this occasion big?
Well, I think we should have had some kind of a celebratory season, no matter what you call it, just to get my ass back on there. That's what I think.
Yes. Survivor Season 30, Richard Hatch.
I don't know who's not talking to Burnett or to whoever else is into the CBS or whatever. Somebody's got to shake them up a little bit.
That's a good way. We'll look at that. But I guess the obvious question that no doubt you always get asked, and with all these celebrations that have happened recently, is that you would have had had no idea back when you first went on the show that this would be going 15 years later into season 30 and still going very strong too.
You're going to tell me what ideas I would have had and wouldn't have had, huh?
Yes, well, of course. That's why we've waited all these years, Richard, to get you on the show. I've had to build up those ideas and everything just to make sure I'm ready for that.
Ben, I'm telling you, I knew, I felt so strongly when I was in the process of being selected that the show would be a good show, that it would be compelling, that what it was going to do was what Survivor is doing, exposing kind of who we are to one another, and most people don't even recognize that yet still, but still, unconsciously or otherwise, it's compelling television because we're looking at who people are. And it is reality. It's unscripted drama, but who people are is real. We can relate to or feel totally unrelated to any of these characters for so many different reasons. And I think that's why it's lasted. I knew it would be a good show. I really believed it.
In terms of this season with the 3 tribes, we touched on that quickly before. You, of course, on All Stars were on a 3-tribe season. Do you like 3-tribe formats, Richard?
I don't care. In general, for me, it's not a make or break detail. I don't care whether it's 2 tribes or 3 tribes. In fact, I don't really start knowing names well and get invested until the merge. So it's just the way it is. You know, there are just too many people. What is it? 400 and what? How many? 400 and something survivors now?
Up to 460 off the top of my head now, I think, after this season. So
it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So keeping track of who's who, you know, I really don't invest until the merge.
Now, you mentioned that you knew somebody going in. I'm assuming that would be Max. Would I be correct in saying that?
Speaking of who I invested in, what a nice ass that man had, huh?
Well, he paid homage to you, didn't he, with that bit of nudity? What were you thinking? You're like, hey, here's this guy. I mean, did you have conversations with him beforehand? Like, hey, go naked like me.
I had none. In fact, I know Max because he was a professor teaching courses on Survivor, and he invited me into those classes to do Q&A with him and the students. And I did that 2 or 3 times. And so we talked during those periods, but I had no idea that he went on the show. None.
Wow.
I just didn't know. So I didn't talk to him before the game about what to do. But he asked a lot of those questions in those Q&As. So I liked his demeanor, but clearly everybody saw where he failed in the show, what he did by separating himself so obviously.
And do you think that goes to show then that you can teach a class on Survivor, but when you go out there, I mean, you can be the biggest fan of this game as well, but day one, I mean, it doesn't matter, does it?
Well, Max said that really humbly and really well. He you just don't realize, and viewers just can't realize how difficult the game is, how complicated, how many layers, how much strategy is truly involved in the actual game, the part of the game that matters. And I liked how he said that. So yes, I agree, that's true. You can have an idea. You can have a lot of ideas. And you can have all those ideas and no brain. Like, what's his name this season? Oh my God. It's not
Rodney?
Oh my golly. I mean, that's just difficult to watch.
He's an interesting one. I think because pre-game, people were like, yeah, this guy's going to struggle. A couple of episodes in, he seemed to be a lot calmer than people were giving him credit for. Then now all of a sudden, he's going exactly the route that everybody thought he would. I mean, we're at this merge now. He's just been backstabbed. What is his plan of attack here? If you're in his situation, what can he do?
I can't be in his situation. That's not possible. But given who he is, what does he do? I have no idea, and I don't think anybody can because it's not predictable, and that's the kiss of death in Survivor. Not that you have to be predictable, but you have to be bright enough to for someone who understands the game to be able to understand what the heck you're doing. There has to be some sense to what you're doing. And he's really, really delusional, unfortunately. He just has no idea what it takes to play the game. He reminds me of who?
I'm guessing somebody else beginning with an R?
Oh, there you go. You're good, Ben. He reminds me of Russell. I mean, there's an incredible amount of energy there and pompous kind of entitlement to look at who that. I mean, the comments this episode that Rod made about what he was going to do, and they have no idea, and how I've got it, and like he's taking anyone anywhere. I really thought it wasn't possible to be that dumb until Joaquin stepped in and he equaled him.
So all of a sudden, the decision then from them to throw this challenge and Mike then to go after and target Joaquin and Rodney, I mean, does that necessarily now not look like a pretty dumb idea?
Well, it depends from whose perspective. I think it was a great idea for Mike. I think it gave him the opportunity to make a move. I think it gave him the opportunity to settle a few issues with Sierra. I think it allowed the game to unfold a little bit. I think it got rid of some of the driftwood. I think Joaquin was driftwood. He, like Rodney, seems to think that they were not just better than they are, but better positioned, better players, less vulnerable to what the game really is. Clearly lacking an understanding of the game, which is what viewers get riled up about and don't understand how hard it is there. And that's what happens. People get there and they think they know what's going on, and if they're not bright enough to realize that you can't ever really know the truth, you end up like them. And I say them even though Rodney's still there, because Rodney really is bouncing around like an aimless pinball.
He's an interesting one, and it's a very good point with the Russell references, because I think a lot of people are seeing that with him. And with that, do you see then the possibility that he could be dragged or make it to the end but be a Russell and just be like, nah, he's got no chance in hell of getting a vote just because of the way he is and the way he treats people?
Yeah, there's no chance whether he got to the end or not. Could he be dragged? Sure. If I were there and I needed a dolt who wasn't playing, or who'd offended everybody just because they were so what? His comments about women, I mean, so off-putting. That's not a bad thing to do. Although, as much as people want that $1 million, and I can relate, it's difficult to be around them. Even if it's only a few days and you're bringing them to the end, it's still such a challenge to do. So very often you just want to get rid of them anyway.
So, having said that, with the likes of a Rodney and Joaquin, who obviously just went, who do you see right now as some of the players who are positioned quite well, particularly now that we've got the merge happening next week?
Well, there are players that I am intrigued about because I can't get a handle on, and it's not that I'm worried about how they're playing. It's that it appears to me to be intentional that they aren't letting anybody get a complete handle on them. Tyler being one of those. He really isn't exposing himself or his game as a bad player would. I might think of Kelly in a similar way, because she's very much liked, and if tonight's any indication, some challenges, puzzles, memory, or whatever are going to be difficult for her, but she's not let all of her eggs out of the basket either. She's keeping things close to her chest, and that's good. It's a good way to play. Joe's in a tough boat because he's he's targeted because he's so good looking, so young, so strong, so good in challenges, so people are already wary, but he's handling that well. He doesn't come across as arrogant. He doesn't come across as entitled. He's brilliant at tribal councils. Brilliantly calm and self-deprecating and all of those things that are helpful. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely someone to watch. Who is it? Jen?
Yes.
Jen's kind of opinionated.
Yeah, and she's one with the Idol, and she's getting a lot of screen time, Jen.
She's getting screen time, that's for sure. And I try not to pay too much attention to that because CBS editors are brilliant. Mm-hmm. And there's no way of knowing one way or the other. You're giving them so much airtime because they're not going to win. You're giving them so much airtime because people will think they're not going to win, but they are going to win. They do it all. So I try not to pay too much attention to that. But what I do pay attention to is that it's not her approach when she's being as opinionated as I've watched her be. Doesn't seem to often be around, or maybe at all, I'm not sure, around everybody. It seems to be done to the camera. I appreciate that. I want that. I want somebody with a brain who recognizes that we can take that. We want to know what you're thinking, how your emotions are going. And if you can do that and not share them in front of your competitors, you've got it going on. So, does she? I don't know yet whether she's got it going on, but she's interesting and somebody to watch. There are others like Will. I'm not watching Will too much because he's not a strong player. He's not strong in challenges, and I don't see that going too far. Who else?
It's only a couple, really. I mean, Haley and Shireen and Carolyn, I think the only ones there that weren't brought up.
Yeah, Mike too. Yeah. Hey, Shireen, boy, there's an interesting one. I appreciate her sincerity. I love that she's sharing who she is, how she's come to be, what it feels like to be in the position tonight that she expressed. But she made bad choices with Max in setting themselves apart and being a team that was so, whispery with one another. And that gets irritating. That's irritating. And I guess she has some irritating qualities, so the others say anyway. Mm-hmm. Carolyn's interesting. She feels she's the oldest one there, I think, and they talk about, or she talks about that as a vulnerability. But like in this episode, she certainly was under the radar tonight. Mm-hmm. Mike, what do we do with him?
He's an interesting one, isn't he?
Yeah. He made a good move today. He really made a good move. I mean, take a hammer to his head had he teamed up with Rodney. That's just a sinking. That ship is already underwater. It's just so brash that it's flopping around and making noise anyway. Still, but I don't know. It's interesting. What Mike appears to me as if he can do the relationship thing, and that's an important thing in the game. Unlike Dan.
There's one we haven't talked about.
that can't do the relationship thing. Dan can't play the social game. Dan wants desperately to be able to play the social game. Dan has an awareness that's almost sad that there is a social game going on that he can't play. That's fun to watch. He's intriguing, but he's really unable to stop his choppers. They just and it's out, and it's not well put together. What comes out, it offends people. It's loud. So I don't know.
And we're going to see a lot more of that now with the merge, I guess, because I guess the interesting thing when the tribes sort of switched up and we had this spread of the original tribes. Again, we didn't really see a lot of the original tribes sticking together too much. I mean, people were flipping and all that sort of stuff, as you get in Survivor, of course. But now coming to the merge. One thing that I would be intrigued to get your thoughts on, the original no-collar tribe. I mean, they've all stayed intact since this switch. We've got Joe, Jen, Hayley, and Will. They all seemed fairly close. They lost a couple of challenges. Now that we've got a merge, there's 12 people, there's 4 of them. Can you see them perhaps coming back together and forming something that they had originally when they were all together on no-collar?
I can see them doing it. I don't know that it would be a good move to do. I don't think Will is an asset to have on the team. I think he's a little bit too vulnerable. I don't know if they will, but sure, anything can happen after the merge. It could come back together. Mm-hmm. Hayley, that's an unknown to me right now.
She's kind of seem like she's with Jen, and then we kind of get not a whole lot from her, and since the switch we haven't really got anything from her.
Right. And what is that? Is that because there's nothing going on? But is there? Is she being calm? Is she being observant? I don't know. You cannot go by the editing. You just can't.
Well, it's so true, because I know for a fact that we've got Jeremy and Val from last season doing our power rankings, and Jeremy's talked up Kelly this whole season, still talking up Kelly. And, she, at the start of this season, she was getting nothing, no screen time at all. And if you go back to last season with Natalie, she wasn't getting much at the start, and she only really came into her own about midway through the season. So it's kind of, I feel the editors, and you brought it up there, how good they are. Recent seasons, I think, we had a period of Survivor, I feel, where the winners were obvious. Whereas now I think we're into this period where, last season it was the Jeremy and Josh show. They went in the middle of the season. We're like, well, who the hell is going to win now? The season before, Tony was getting so much screen time as this over-the-top guy. We're thinking, he's not going to win. People like that don't win, and he won. So, it's kind of like they've got to this point now, CBS, with their editing, where they're just keeping us all guessing.
Which is a good thing. By the way, how the hell did Tony win?
Well, you were bringing up, when you were bringing up the type of people like a Russell and a Rodney before, I was almost going to bring in Tony into that conversation to say to you, how, because we haven't spoken since then, Richard, how much did that surprise you that somebody like that won with Tony?
I did not know what to do with myself. Good for him. Good for him. I don't subscribe to that idea of didn't deserve this or that. That's just asinine. Whoever won deserved it. Mm-hmm. But Tony had more chances after screwing up than anyone I've ever seen in all season. Just making these horrific kind of death knell decisions. And then somehow, in the middle of the night, getting clarity and scrambling his ass off, stressed to the hilt, fixing it. Mm-hmm. So you got to give him credit for having fixed it. I don't know how he did or how he could have. But he did.
Yeah. If there's ever an all-winner season, that will make it fun for you guys playing together.
That would be something to watch. Something to play.
Yeah. I for one, I'd like to watch that. The whole throwing the challenge situation that we had in this episode with Kelly and Mike, and making it into. Do you think Mike could have been any more obvious the way he was doing that?
I don't think it mattered. I think Rodney is such a blowhard when it comes to being obnoxious and kind of unaware that you could do anything. You could dance on your head and still nobody's going to notice that you're doing such silliness. Rodney was calling that. Rodney was saying, we need to blow this challenge before he ever thought, 5 options through, never mind the 500 that there could be and that might have been better than blowing a challenge. Who knows for him what would have been better? But it's because he's a pawn that he didn't go. It's because nobody cares about his being there. They don't want him there to be around him. They're not threatened by him because they know there's no chance.
Do you subscribe to the fact that throwing a challenge can work in Survivor? Because most often than not, it appears that it doesn't work, but it can.
Oh, I think absolutely it can. I don't think it does all the time, but that's just about the players. Any tool, any strategy could work depending upon the situation, the circumstances, and how well you understand reality. The problem is people get too confident about what they think is reality instead of recognizing that it's only a perception. And, that's all philosophical and whatever you might want to say it, but I think it's the key to this game. If you get too rigid, if you somehow lose any flexibility whatsoever, you're toast. You've got to always recognize that you might be missing a piece of the puzzle.
I think the classic thing about throwing challenges, which I think is often overlooked, is back on Borneo with dear old, and rest in peace, BB, of course, that he, at the start, was like, hey, we should just lose these all the time to vote people out. He thought that was the point of the game. So, let's take a moment there to say that the idea of throwing challenges, that can be the BB Anderson model of Survivor.
Yeah, well, I would go along with you if there were some thought behind that. But BB just wanted to go home. BB was done. BB really had had enough of these brats at that time. That's what he was thinking. It was shocking to him. He just felt, I think, I don't know for sure. I was on the other team, but it appeared to me as if he just really had enough. And so it wasn't a strategy, but it's a great name for the actual strategy. Let's BB this.
Yeah.
Throw it.
Why not? Like, we have all these other names for certain things as Survivor. I mean, pagonging is synonymous with a tribe getting wiped out after a merge from your season. So I think we need to pay some homage there to the legend that is BB. Come on.
And I agree with you. And I think we should thank BB, frankly, for having kind of such a good handle on how tough the game was. He spoke eloquently afterwards about being a competent, bright, capable man who got hammered by how difficult the game is. And he was the first, I think, to talk about that viewers just wouldn't really ever be able to understand how tough it would be. They would think, a few days of vacation. And I don't think viewers quite yet understand. They're clamoring to get on as contestants still, and they don't really know what they're in for. It's really tough.
Well, it's interesting with this season that we spoke about Max. Shireen obviously is a huge fan. There's a lot of fans on this show, and a lot of fans seem to cry out like, we want fans on the show. Fans are great. But we've kind of talked a little bit about on this show that sometimes it can be a bad thing because, no disrespect to people like Max and Shireen, if you're a fan, sometimes you might overact a little bit to get some screen time because you know how this works, and that can affect your judgment. I mean, how do you buy into that? Do you think fans on Survivor, super fans, is a good thing, a bad thing, or do we need a balance in between?
Well, Ben, let's look at that really closely. Look at the subtlety in the two you just mentioned, Max and Shireen. Now, honestly, neither Max nor Shireen are strategizing to get more airtime. That's just not happening. Max, particularly, is such a geeked out, full-on, 100% fan of the game that he was practically vibrating at the idea of being in it. It's kind of Matrix-ish. What? I know this, that, and the other thing. And you, as a fan, have to get control of that before you get there. I think it was his undoing. He was geeking out with someone else who knew some of the details. As you so easily, in your brain, go back and start pulling out names from this season and when and what order because you have the show or whatever, I'm sitting here kind of dumbfounded. I can't keep track of these people. I'm like, how the hell does he know that or recall it? Or, I watched it. I haven't missed any, and I love it, but I just can't. And it's the same with football and so the stats and the names, and there's no room for it. There's too many other priorities. There are too many other priorities. So I think you're right. I think geeking out and being too much of a fan can be a problem for lots of different reasons. I haven't yet seen the so stupid that all they're doing is for airtime. I'm grateful to Lynn Spillman, who cast the contestants, for keeping that kind of absurdity off. I don't think, you can tell me if you think differently, I don't think there are many people that go on and just, at the expense of the game, kind of show their boobs or, pound their chest. They just, I don't think that's happening. I think the people that she's chosen are there to play. Now, whether they can play or not, that's always been a point of difficulty for me. After 30 seasons, how can you not have more preparation than some of these?
Well, it's always going to be interesting, I think, and I'm not going to say if you get back on Survivor, Richard, I'm going to say when you get back on Survivor, how that will occur. Because we had Jervis on recently to talk about his second time on Blood vs. Water, and, he kind of went through a lot of watching and, that big gap in between Borneo to playing on Blood vs. Water. And it kind of intrigued me, Jervis's perception of the game and how he brought that into his second game. How do you think Jervis adapt? Do you think Jervis adapted good enough between those 26 seasons? And on a side note, as a follow-up question to that, do you feel that on your third time around that you're going to have to do similar to, say, how Jervis played, or can you just play how you played before?
Hell no, similar to Jervis. No, I love me some Jervis, but obviously he didn't adapt well enough. Obviously he didn't have the game well enough in hand. He really didn't. And right from the get-go, he was, I don't know what the word is, far too targeted, far too outspoken, far too emotional. That's what I'm going to say, to have a chance at really managing what was happening. Now, that's not the only way to win, but it's an indicator of whether you're there with the capacity to win. And so, sadly, I don't think that was clearly it wasn't in the cards for him. When I go back, of course, it's a different story. Ben, I can't lose. No, everybody knows I lost on
All Stars.
All Stars, but All Stars was the first bringing people back, and what they did, and they recognized it then, was bring back a few winners and a bunch of other people. Well, the bunch of other people right from the beginning made a pact and said, let's get rid of the winners. And I think now it's different. I think now people understand that a good player, someone who really gets, I don't know, I might be giving people too much credit still, but I'm hoping they see that someone who really knows how to play the game is an asset to bring along for a while. I really tried to communicate that to a couple of the people, Kathy and Colby, and told them, if I go, you're next. And they were. But they didn't get it, and I was, I'm to blame because I couldn't convince them. I couldn't communicate. They wouldn't believe me.
It's interesting with All Stars because I think we talked about it recently with that season that I don't think that your game was as... I mean, some people say you just went out there and just did what you did and, it was terrible. I think with what you tried to do on All Stars, you did the best what you could do, and on a season where, as you said, winners were always going to be... Go.
Yeah, I haven't heard the people saying it was terrible yet, and it's fine. I mean, I appreciate the opinion. I think it looks terrible. I think going home to fifth sucked. Although I met the man I've been married to now for more than 11 years, so it's worth far more to me than the $1 million ever would have been. And he's now about to be a citizen. He's in basic training in the Air Force. It's just amazing. Fantastic. I mean, things are going well. Yeah, but as far as gameplay at that time, I'm not sure. Well, my gameplay was overshadowed by the emotions behind Jenna and Jenna Maraska's mom's condition. And Jenna Maraska's mom really wanted her to go play, but was and had been really, really sick with cancer for quite a long time. And so that was difficult, and that was really touching, and viewers connected with that. But we didn't know that her mom would pass away, and I was playing. I really was playing while I was there. I did not give up, even though they were getting rid of winners. And I would say, to this day, ego or whatever you want to call it, that it's their mistake, particularly Kathy and Colby. They did as poorly as they did because they didn't listen to someone who understands the game better. It's tough. It's really difficult. We have an easy time of looking at one another and saying, wow, you're a better football player. You're a better chess player. Boy, you really understand carpentry, don't you? I really don't. But when it comes to thinking about who might be brighter, who might actually have more awareness of an overall picture of reality, we can't go there. We can't talk about somebody being smarter. What's that? And that's or less intelligent than somebody else. That's almost like talking about somebody's mother. It gets people so angry. I don't know why. I seek out people who are brighter than me. Hard to find, I admit. Come on, I'm kidding.
We see. This is why we love Richard Hatch. Come on now. But
love to hate is what I hear.
But
I'm sincere. I truly am.
I personally, All Stars to me is my favourite season of all time still, and I know the season in general gets a lot of hate. Usually a lot of fans hate All Stars, but I love All Stars, and that's one season that I think I've watched that season the most, and I can just watch that from start to finish and never get sick of it. And just everybody on that season, even the likes of people like Amber, who originally you're like, well, what the hell's she doing there? You still end up loving because, she obviously wins the game, so.
I love Amber. But you watched that season just to see my biting the shark.
Of course. I mean, why do I not want to see Richard Hatch bite a shark? I mean, that's like the best part of the season.
And then eat it for lunch. Yeah. That was great. I enjoyed it.
Yes. Now,
I have it memorialized as
you do. Yes, indeed. That's awesome. See, like Tom Westman got so much love for killing a shark. I mean, he didn't bite it to kill it, did he? I mean, you actually, like, a shark attacked you, you attacked it back. Come on.
I didn't have much choice.
Yeah.
Could not get it off to let go once it bit.
That's the secret. If anybody listening out there is about to get attacked by a shark, bite it back. It's,
Bite it back.
Doesn't matter how big it is. Like,
it's true.
Great white's halfway up your body. Just bite it, and we'll let you go. Now we're going to cut.
Then I'd just poking its eye out or something.
We've got a couple of list of questions, and we'll close it out with our final five for this season. Of course, that we do always put it out there. But in terms of this 15th anniversary, we said there's been a few minor celebrations. I mean, is there a way you would like Survivor kind of commemorate? I mean, we had a big 10-year party 5 years ago, of course, for Heroes vs. Villains. They had an exhibition, I believe, in Los Angeles recently, just showcasing some of their... Is there something else you feel that should be done this year to celebrate the occasion? Because, I mean, 15 years for any TV show is a very big occasion.
It really is. From my perspective, it's great. I have tremendous respect for the people behind the show. Mark Burnett was brilliant in having gotten it to air. It's an achievement. It's awesome. Should it be celebrated? None of that's up to me. I appreciate the show for what it is. I love watching it. I wish I were more a part of it. I wish I were more. I don't know what the word is. And I wish I were back on. But that's okay that I'm not. And if there's a celebration and I'm included, yippee. I'm with you. It'd be good. It's fun for me, not kind of the... I love the fans who appreciate the game and want to talk about the game because they appreciate the dynamics and what it says about who we are. But I'm not drawn to the fame and the partying and the things like that. So it isn't a big disappointment for me not to get together and have a big party. I really connect with a lot of people who have participated, who've been contestants on Survivor, at charity events,
Yeah.
at different places. And Bob and Peggy Crowley, and the charity he's got going, for Wounded Warriors in Maine. It's awesome. Anyway,
Yeah.
so not to take away from fans wanting us to have a gathering, it's not something I long for.
Well, we know how heavily you are involved still in all these charitable events. I mean, Reality Rally's only a couple of weeks away, and we know how heavily involved you are in that. We of course have Hearts of Reality, which comes later in the year as well. I mean, all these great events that are still out there, and the fan community obviously gets heavily involved in that. And, again, I suppose at the end of the day, 15 years strong, the fans are what's keeping Survivor alive.
It's true. It's true. And supporting wonderful causes in all of those things you mentioned. All those charities are for great causes, and if you can really get together and have a ball like we do and make money for really worthy causes, it doesn't get much better than that.
Exactly. And I can tell you, I've said it like every single year. Oh, I'm going to go to Reality Rally next year. I'm going to next year, 2016. I've already started putting money aside for it now that I've gotten a new job, and I will be there in 2016.
You mean being Mr. Survivor Oz doesn't pay all the bills?
Doesn't pay a cent, unfortunately. So, you would think that somebody in my position, Richard, would be quite well off, but...
Seriously, Ben, I mean, you have a worldwide audience. Yeah. Who can say that?
Well, look, a couple of people can, but we won't get into that right now. But, yes, everybody who listens, send us $1 and I'll get $1. All right, let's get into these listener questions. As always, people can send us in listener questions. Just check out our social media pages. We'll update you on who we've got on each week. Now, a couple of these, as always, they often get answered in the interview itself. RB Lildrestrom, now he sent in a couple here. Most of his points have been answered. I like this one that he's asked here. Richard, did you eat any snakes on your season? And he's put in brackets reptiles to obviously make sure not to get confused with what Sue said at the end.
Well, I mean, Ben, what other snakes could he possibly be referring to?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me either. We are so innocent, you and I. No, that was one of all of the land animals. All of the land animals other than rats were off limits because we were in a protected, uninhabited island. And so I forget. I know there were monkeys and fowl and certainly snakes. I came across huge snakes, 20-something foot pythons. Yeah, but those weren't up for our eating, and that's fine. I love that. I'm glad we didn't, because it's a small ecosystem on that uninhabited island, and I'd hate to have interfered with it,
Yeah.
So I'm glad we didn't.
It's kind of like I've always, whenever we've had Australian Outback people on, because here in Australia we eat kangaroos like all the time. Yeah. And the first few times I got people from that city like, why didn't you kill a kangaroo and just eat one of them? And they're like, well, for starters, have you ever tried to kill one personally? That'd probably kill me back. And secondly, we weren't allowed.
They weren't allowed, but they were that pig.
Yeah.
That I don't quite understand. I mean, kangaroos really are, in some parts of your country, infestation.
Very much so, yes. They have to have culling exercise. Like, there's people who just get in the back of a ute and go roo shooting at the weekend.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And if you come to... when you were in Australia, did you eat kangaroo?
I did.
Did you like it?
I did. Mm-hmm. I liked it. I remember Moreton Bay bugs and prawns, and I'd never had a bug. I'd never had those little something between a lobster and a shrimp kind of thing.
Yep.
God, they're good. I'll eat anything.
Good, there you go. Third time around, remember that when you're on Survivor. Now, RV also, he's mentioned a lot here about Max, and we've obviously touched on that, but he did say, what did you think of the homage to you about Max walking around naked? Just that aspect of him and your name being brought up on season 30.
Oh, that's always a pleasure. And as the years have passed, you'll notice there was less rumbling about it, less grumbling, less offendedness. So for me, that's a move toward intelligence. The reality is, who cares? We've all got the same darn thing, more or less, literally. You know, it's hot, it's wet, it's whatever, and they're naked. And it's not going to show on TV. Your kids aren't going to see anything they shouldn't see. So I'm happy that it's less of an issue now.
Yeah.
And Max was awfully pretty.
Yes, there wasn't quite the backlash about him being naked that there was about you being naked.
No. In fact, people were commenting, "Oh, well, at least it's not Richard."
Did you speak much to Max since it's all happened now? I mean, have you had much communication with him since you've seen him on the show?
No, just a little bit. We've had a little bit of congratulations, and I let him know what I thought of his gameplay and the opportunity, and gave him a little bit of advice, I guess, about appreciating it, which he didn't need because, of course, he said it better than I ever could. He's a bright guy who's aware of how that experience was something he can be grateful for, whether he was booted off or not.
Yeah. What do you think of the beard? Like, do you like the Max Dawson beard?
No, I don't like beards at all. In fact, the only reason I've worn a beard for so many years is that Emiliano wants me to. I can't stand it, and so he's away, and I don't have one right now.
There you go. That's how you do it. Now, the only other question we got here is, again, we sort of touched on this, and this kind of relates to a question I'll ask in a second. So actually, I'll combine this question with our first question of our final five. Our first question is, who is your tip to win this season? And Zachary Chong asked the question, who do you think's getting a winner's edit? So we'll combine those two together. Richard Hatch, who do you think's winning Survivor Worlds Apart?
Well, I think, Ben, I answered the who do you think's getting a winner's edit in our conversation.
You did.
I think you'd be really daft to say this person or that person's getting a winning edit because the editing team at CBS is very capable. They know what they're doing. They get at CBS or at Survivor Group, Mark's company, whoever's doing the editing, they're doing it well, and you can't know, even if they're editing it in a way that makes it look like the way 15 other winners were edited, then maybe that's not the winner, So that's the case. Now, as far as who I would put, who I might think might be the winner, you know darn well you're not going to get that out of me.
Well, it's funny, actually. I'm looking back. We had you on back in Karamoan in the 3rd episode, and I'm just reading your answers here. You said at that point that either Sherry, Cochrane, or Malcolm would win. So you gave me 3 answers for that one. And, well, you got Cochrane right. So
because I was talking about people I thought could win. And in our conversation, I gave you plenty of that.
You did.
People who have the capacity, the skills, who look like they're doing what they should do to play this game well. But I think it's kind of silly to particularly pre-merge, to talk about who looks like they're ahead. It's not football where you can look at a scoreboard and say, wow, it's 77-4. It looks like the team who has 77 is about to win. Survivor is really a volatile game during which all kinds of things can happen at any point. And if you don't treat it that way and respect it that way as a viewer, then you're really not getting all out of it that you could, I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, I'll scrap second question. That's who's your dark horse win. One thing that we always ask here too, though.
Well, I'll give you the dark horse.
Go for it.
Happy to answer that question.
Go for it.
There isn't a frickin' chance in hell that Rodney's getting near the win. Even if he's there in second place, he's not near the win.
Well,
it's not possible.
Here's a question for you. If the impossible happened and in 3 months' time Rodney's a winner of Survivor, what do you do, Richard?
Oh, dear Lord. What do you want me to do? I'd do it. It's not going to happen. It's not possible. There isn't a jury out there who could give him the respect of the title Sole Survivor. It's just not possible.
There we go.
He can't play and isn't playing Survivor well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get it. I appreciate his enthusiasm. I get where he came from. I'm right down the street from Boston. But it's not Survivor. The skills he has aren't those that are required in this game.
I think that's why our nickname of Boston Rod, in comparisons to Boston Rob, has not stuck this season, because he's not playing like Boston Rob.
Yeah, no. Boston Rob could play, at least had an understanding of the game. It's not like he would beat me, but he could play.
Well, yes, exactly. Now, who do you think will be next voted out? Do you want to answer that one at all, or do you want to pass on that one too?
Yeah, there's no intelligent way to say that. I could say this one, that one, or the other one, but it just doesn't make any sense. That's fine. I'll pass.
This one you can answer. This one I think I know the answer, because again, kind of at the top of this interview, we sort of brought up the fact that a lot of the reason why this season started was because of you and Sue. What tribe would you be on, Richard? White collar, no collar, or blue collar?
Well, the interesting thing, well, here we go, my ego calling my answer interesting. I really think I could fit in on any tribe. I really do. I think they would have put me on the white collar tribe, but I don't belong there. I'm not a professional. I don't live as a white collar person lives. I don't think in the way what we imagine white collar people think. Many, if not most, of the jobs I've had, the things I've done, from getting quahogs and selling them by the dozen as a kid. Those are clams here in Rhode Island. I have been blue collar, and I do my yard work. I do whatever. And the no collar tribe, boy, I'm with them too, because I'm quite the outsider for a lot of reasons. I want to get a T-shirt made that says "I'm not black" for all you bigots who care. But I'm a gay, atheist, convicted felon. So have at. I'm so tired of the racism in this country. It just infuriates me. And if we can't address what's going on with it, there isn't as much hope of eradicating it.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from.
Yeah. No. Well, I can see all sides of that, and I like that. I like that answer. Final question. Now, this is my favourite question of our final five, and I love asking this to you because I generally know how this answer will go, but I'm still going to ask it to you anyway. Out of all the players this season, it doesn't have to be the ones that have been voted out as well. Who do you feel is playing most like Richard Hatch?
Oh God! Yeah, you know the answer.
I know the answer.
Is there anybody there that you think right now just has it locked?
No.
Okay, then.
There you go.
So we don't see any Richard Hatch.
I've just got to put it out there, just so I've officially asked it. At least it's
now, Ben. Let me be even more honest than that. It's not that they may not be there. It's just that we can't know that yet. Yeah. And in fact, I have thankfully been thrilled with recent seasons, that more and more players, real people who really understand the game, have been on and won. From Sophie on, there have been quite a few people who've kind of gotten it, and wow, yay, good job, you really get it. I love Spencer, amazing. He didn't win. What a player! What a guy who understood, appreciated, and enjoyed the game. I'd like to think that that's who I am.
Well, I love the fact that you say that, because I think my memories, I believe, from the very first time I interviewed you, was that you opened up by basically saying that it's frustrating you that so many people play the game that don't know how to play the damn game. And that was, I think, 3 or 4 years ago when we first got you on. But to kind of now come to this point now where you kind of say, well, hang on a minute, there are people now that are they're listening to you, Richard.
Well, or it's not possible to find that many unaware people anymore. Maybe they are listening to me because that's certainly possible.
Yes, of course. I mean, they see the words Richard Hatch in an episode title, download straight away. It's the only time we get downloads, Richard, let's be honest. Now I'm just sucking up. What am I going to say? Richard, it's always a pleasure, mate, having you on this show. We definitely won't make it as long next time between getting you on. Best of luck for everything that's in your life right now. We hope, of course, maybe the next time we get you on the show is to chat to you about your third time on the show after winning it, of course. But best of luck to Reality Rally. Give it a plug. Can people donate right now to Michelle's Place?
They absolutely can. They can always donate to Michelle's Place. They raise money all year. It's an amazing charity, and it's something that's gone on for a good number of years now, and it's really one of those charities that money goes to the people who need it. It goes to the people getting help, full on. So if you have an opportunity to get involved with Reality Rally, be there or donate, please do.
And I should also mention that last year you were on Team Survivor Oz. How did I go 54 minutes into this episode and not even mention that you represented us last year at Bloody Temecula? Come on!
And how fun was that? Really enjoyable. It would have been only better had you been part of that team.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad that my suck-upping has now gone to you suck-upping to me, so it's come full circle. Good job, Richard. Now you're learning off me.
Well, I'm good at it.
Well, thank you, mate. Always a pleasure, and we look forward to getting you back here on the show again in the future.
Have a good season, Ben.
There we go. The one, the only, Richard Hatch. Always an absolute thrill to get him on the show. I can't believe it's been 2 years since we had him on back in Caramoan, and it does not seem like it was that long ago, but there's just no words that can describe having the great Richard Hatch on this program. So we thank Richard once again for appearing on the show. Next week, we are hoping that we have got the twinnies locked in. Natalie and Nadia Anderson, of course, from San Juan del Sur. Our communication issues that were preventing us from getting in touch with them, believed to have been sorted now. So we are hoping that will be there next week, and you can tell that's going to be fun. I did mention, of course, at the top of this season that we were looking at getting a lot of winners, ex-winners on this show. Of course, we've already had Tina on, now we've had Richard on, so hopefully then having Natalie on will solidify that. We've still got a couple more lined up in the pipeline as well. In the meantime, you can listen, of course, to all our other episodes of Survivor Oz, including this week's Oztopsy, which will be available probably by the time you're listening to this already, so make sure you do listen to that. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter to stay up to date with everything. And we do have, in only a couple of months' time, coming up, the Oscars. We're starting to look at those, folks, so get excited. Our annual awards that always cause a lot of debate, they are only just around the corner, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, always appreciate your support. Thank you very much for tuning in to us. My name is Ben. The tribe has spoken. We will speak to you next time on the trains here on Survivor Oz.